Good morning, everyone. It's Sunday, March 30th. Governor Maura Healey is our guest this morning. Let's go on the record. Keeping the Bay State on the rails with a hostile White House and challenges at home. Is there any link to a smoother ride? The governor's in the chair. It's time to go on the record.
From WCVB Channel 5, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill. Today's newsmakers are going on the record.
Welcome to OTR, everyone. I'm Ed Harding.
And I'm Charmin Sacchetti. With us at the table is Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey, the first woman elected to the state's top office, taking the oath in January of 2023 and a candidate for re-election in 2026. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Great to be with you both.
Great to have you, Governor. Thanks for coming. Let's start with the rather jarring event that happened last week. We have seen the video, but here's the video again. This is the Tufts University graduate student who was taken into custody by federal immigration agents. It was caught on camera on a sidewalk in Somerville. Homeland Security claims a 30-year-old from Turkey engaged in activities that supported Hamas. What more in the time since this happened have you learned about this?
Really nothing. Obviously, the video is disturbing, and there are questions about this, real questions about this. We don't know the circumstances under which this woman was taken. We haven't had any information provided to us by the Department of Homeland Security. So, all I can tell you right now is I continue to be in touch with the Attorney General, who is looking at this, and wish we had more information to offer the public.
She was so swiftly moved to out of state to Louisiana. I'm sure that's part of the game plan, but that's another indication of just how jarring it can be.
Yes, and there was a court order that said she'd be held here, and that was not followed. Yeah, I'm not sure what is going on here, to be honest, because I thought that, and again, we don't know the circumstances of this, but Donald Trump said that he was going to target criminals, and that was going to be the activity of ICE and Department of Homeland Security. And increasingly we're seeing instances that really call that into question here on the ground in Massachusetts. And I can say, as a former prosecutor and attorney general, somebody who went after fentanyl traffickers and put people away behind bars, I am very comfortable removing violent offenders from the streets, including those who should not be here, who are here unlawfully. I also want to say, though, in Massachusetts, the facts are that we're among the safest states in the country. We were rated recently, we have the lowest rate of gun deaths, of traffic deaths. We are second in life expectancy nationwide, and we, I think, are third lowest in property theft. So in this discussion about public safety and what's going on, I just want to level set with the folks in Massachusetts to let them know what's actually going on in terms of public safety. We have to hear more about this particular instance involving this tough student, but certainly those images, I think, were jarring and concerning for many of us.
Let's talk about that immigration sweep. Border Czar Tom Homan said federal agents made many criminal but also many collateral arrests during that sweep in Massachusetts a few weeks ago. 370 people swept up. Homan says more than 200 had significant criminal convictions or charges. You had said you reached out to him to meet with him, and they didn't take you up on that. What did you want to tell him?
I just wanted to have a conversation about what their actual plan was. I mean, again, I'm somebody who is very familiar with investigating and prosecuting and putting bad guys away. And if that's what you're looking to do, then work with us on that. They came in
and picked up more than 200
people. They did.
Days.
And, look, I have no problem with taking people off the streets who are committing violent crimes, who are engaged in drug trafficking, right? I mean, as somebody who went hard after fentanyl as Attorney General, I support that. I think what's concerning, first of all, we don't know anything about who they actually took. So there are numbers offered, but we've seen no substantiation. What is also true is they admit that they took a number of people as collateral damage. And these are people who are working here, paying taxes here, living here, raising kids here, who had no crimes, from the few we know who were taken from their families. So again, that seems to be counter to what Donald Trump said he was doing in utilizing ICE.
I do want to ask you, you have said repeatedly that Massachusetts is not a sanctuary state.
We are not a sanctuary state.
The 2017 Lund decision bars local law enforcement from holding someone based only on a federal civil immigration detainer. It means law enforcement must release people from their custody even if there is a civil detainer. Republicans are pushing to change that law. Do you support changing that law?
You know, we have a law in place that's similar to many laws in place around this country, and it basically says, look, state law enforcement, you work on crimes, you work on criminal investigations. We regularly do investigations with local and federal authorities. In fact, just last week, Donald Trump invited members of our own Massachusetts State Police to be honored at the White House by Attorney General Pam Bondi and himself for their work in taking down that Trinitario case, gang. Okay, so that ongoing law enforcement work is.
Don't support changing that.
That law enforcement work is working. I support anything to get criminals off the street and to ensure the safety of our communities and our residents. That will be for the legislature to decide in terms of the Lund decision. But I just want to be clear about the model that we have right now, and that I think it's working, and that's shown by the fact that just last week we had members of Massachusetts State Police in Donald Trump's White House, Department of Justice, being honored for their work with federal law enforcement.
Let's take the conversation to what might be an oxymoron: affordable housing. Besides immigration, housing, specifically affordable housing, is a top issue for voters here in Massachusetts. And you have signed legislation that puts billions into projects to build more affordable units. You have toured the new units with Lieutenant Governor, your housing secretary at Augustus. I think I know the answer to this question, but let me ask for those who are listening. Are things happening fast enough?
No, but we are working to make them happen as quickly as possible. Are they happening fast enough? I say no, Ed, because, you know, I think I'm the first governor to ever actually look at this and say, you know what, we should get an inventory and we should figure out exactly how many units of housing that we need to build. And so we did that. The number's big. It's about 220,000. We should have been building housing for years, for decades here, and for whatever reason, we weren't. But I've come in out of the gate. Building housing was my top priority. We got that $5 billion housing bill done already in just 1 year. We've increased housing production in the state by 50%. We took, for example,
do you think people are feeling that?
No, I don't think so yet. I think it's going to take time, Charmin, because we're so behind in the number of units I think that we need. It's going to take some time, but I'm telling you, every single day, I've got a thermometer going of how many units we've brought online. With that bill I got done, we now have accessory dwelling units. You can bring on board thousands of more housing units in a short time, and I've gotten calls from contractors saying they're getting the calls. People are building out ADUs. The incentive program, when I cut taxes, 2 years ago, when I cut taxes, we gave tax credits to developers, and already we've seen those developers create 4,000 additional units of housing in the state. So we've just got to keep building on this.
But can you in today's climate? I mean, Trump's tariffs could make construction maybe impossible, let alone more expensive.
They make it a heck of a lot more difficult because our lumber comes from Canada, the gypsum, other materials come from Mexico. It's another reason why tariffs are just a really dumb idea and are going to continue to increase costs for residents, for businesses in our state, and certainly will impact our ability to build housing. But, you know, there are two things that I'm really, really focused on as governor. Out of the gate was cutting taxes, and people will see the benefit of that again this year. But housing and transportation, building more housing and fixing our transportation infrastructure. And, you know, we've been able to make progress the last 2 years on that, but there is a lot more work left to do.
Emergency shelter expenses, they are another part of the housing crisis, of course. Since you've made changes, are you seeing a drop in the number of people you see who are coming into the shelter system? And are you still on track to get all families out of hotels and motels by the end of the year?
We are. You know, we've talked about this situation before. This was a crisis that I inherited when I became governor and started in 2023. We've worked really hard, and I've taken a number of steps to actually reform the way the system operates and to make changes. As a result of that, we have reduced the number of people who are coming into shelter. We have reduced the number of people who are in shelter. We are at the lowest point that we have been at since 2023. And importantly, we've also reduced the dollars going into this system. We've reduced the costs. So we just got
$1 billion a year. I mean, can we do that next year?
No, we can't, and we're not going to. We're on track. We're on track to reduce that. We're also on track to close all hotels. There were hotels operating when I became governor. I've said I want them shut down. We actually have shut down 7, 8, 10 maybe to date. Just this year alone, we're on track to shut down the rest of them this year, and it will be a much better system. We're, as I say, we're seeing more people exit and fewer people coming in, and that's a good thing.
Governor's in the chair. We're on the record. Stay with us.